This is an audio sample of The Shotgun Wedding by Anna L. Lewis, from the Courageous Overcomers Anthology. When my grandfather says that you are marrying the man you're dating, that's it. End of story. All you can do at that point is set the date, especially if you were 7 months pregnant. In his house there was no backchat, he spoke, and you obeyed. At least that's how it was for my mother when she became pregnant at 18. My mother was a normal teenager, fresh out of high school in Nassau and brimming over with life. Her father, my grandfather, was a hard-working contractor who lived in a small community in the eastern district of New Providence with my grandmother and their 6 kids. Everybody knew my grandfather was strict and laid down the law with his children. He had high hopes for Mummy and kept her close to home. She was, after all, not just the second child but the first daughter of his union with my grandmother, a career nurse. In those days, Mummy spent much of her time at church. She was always involved in the youth meetings like many of the kids her age. Mummy didn't share her story with me until later in life after some of the stories began to come to the fore. She was pregnant with me and forced to marry a man who was not my father. By the time of our conversation, she was a changed woman and a minister of the gospel. Nonetheless, it was clear that she was somewhat embarrassed that I had found her little secret out. I could see the burden lift from her shoulders as I repeatedly told her, "Mummy, it's okay." Those 3 words had become a healing balm to the woman I had to forgive for the wounds inflicted upon me throughout my life under her roof. Mummy needed to be released from the guilt and shame she had carried for so long. Who's my daddy? The road to marriage and family was rocky. What was meant to be joyous was painful. Mummy and I had a history neither one of us wanted to repeat. I understood her pain and confusion and realized that it all started when times were different and parents weren't as open with their children about the ways of the world. It's not an excuse, it's just how things turned out. Nobody told her, and though she found out the hard way, she didn't know how to tell me or talk to me. Mummy was an inexperienced youth having a child without anyone guiding her. In any event, over time, the pieces of her life came together, with me an unwilling participant, smack in the middle of it. It was when I was 30 that I was made aware of some of the background stories that unfolded in Mummy's life. This helped me to understand why Daddy was so harsh and sometimes extremely unkind to her. He did begin to settle down after one of my brothers challenged him not to hit her again. Not knowing the details, I also encouraged Mummy to leave the abusive relationship, but she never did. I don't recall Mummy retaliating to his verbal and physical abuse. Instead, she spewed the venom toward me. It all began innocently enough, a naive young girl, as I said, fresh out of high school, riding on the church bus with its driver, a man many years her senior. I don't know if Mummy felt compelled to or what the exact details were, but she and the bus driver became intimate, which was considered taboo, if only for the age difference. Though it may have happened several times, and he had a girlfriend who recently gave birth to his daughter, theirs was a brief encounter. When Mummy realized she was pregnant and could not keep the information from her parents anymore, her father was told. Before doing so, however, Mummy said she informed the bus driver, who gave her some money to terminate the pregnancy. Thankfully, Mummy chose not to. During this time, Mummy began seeing an upcoming young man who was closer in age to her. They too had been intimate, so her father, wanting to cover the shame he felt the family would experience with a teen pregnancy out of wedlock, ordered a shotgun wedding. The atmosphere at the wedding was so thick that someone said you could almost cut it with a knife. Daddy's family wanted answers. Why did their son have to get married so quickly? It was obvious that Mummy was 7 or 8 months pregnant. To show their discontent, the family played Percy Sledge's song, "Take Time to Know Her." The man I grew up calling Daddy was forced into a marriage he did not want. When I was born a month or 2 later, all eyes were on me. Daddy and his family's greatest fears were uncovered. I had zero resemblance to him or anyone else in his family. He was of a lighter complexion and here I was, a beautiful, darker-skinned baby. I was ready to be loved and embraced by my parents and the new world I had made my grand entrance into, only to be placed in the hands of 2 scared, hurting people, one of whom felt like he had been duped, just like his family said. When I was 11, my parents moved to Andros. By now, Mummy was an auxiliary nurse, and Daddy worked for the Ministry of Education as a security guard. The heat in their relationship was rising. I could not understand why Mummy vented her anger on me. For years I curled up just wondering what I had done and how I could stop the constant physical and emotional abuse directed at me. As I grew older and more children were born into our family, it was clear that I was the odd child out. My siblings were clearly a blend of my parents. The anger that led to abuse. It wasn't unusual for Daddy to become heavy-handed with Mummy. He was not inclined to trust her. Whenever she went out, he was suspicious, especially if it was to another settlement. He just wasn't buying her story and was quick to accuse her of cheating on him. I don't know if she did, but I do know that it was a domino effect. He got angry, lashed out at Mummy, and she in turn took it out on me. There were several times she had me pinned to a wall shouting expletives with a knife to my stomach. Mummy said she had brought me into this world and would take me out of it. The picture was burned into my mind and weighed heavily on me throughout my life. Though burdened, I didn't share my heartache with anyone. I tried to drown my sorrows with fast company and parties and became involved sexually in my mid-teenage years. Rather than talking to me about my reckless living in a calm manner, Mummy listened to unfounded gossip, leaving me feeling burnt once again by accusations that were far from true. On one occasion, she told me in anger that if I were pregnant, I should abort the baby. I didn't understand why she said it then, but I do now. She was afraid that history would repeat itself and the pain would continue. This has been an audio sample from Courageous Overcomers Anthology. For more information on how you can secure your copy of this book, email anna81lewis@gmail.com or visit booksbybethel.com/courageous-overcomers.